Good morning. Good morning. Welcome, Talia. Welcome, Kalpa, Leela Sukha, Surabhi. Welcome, everybody. Before we welcome Surabhi Kunj on, okay, well, maybe I'll do that in a bit. Let's get Surabhi here. Hey, Tirumala, welcome. Hey.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay.
Can you hear
Hare
me?
Krishna, welcome, Surabhi. Thank you
Hare
so much.
Krishna.
Thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you so much for having me.
So welcome everybody. Thank you so much for making time to join us today live. I'm very excited to talk to Surabhi, and I was thinking now, how am I going to introduce Surabhi? And I'm sure you guys noticed, or you ladies noticed, the photo I used of Surabhi when we were advertising this interview. And the reason I selected it is because to me, Surabhi makes me feel that devotional service is a festival. I think that is the best way to describe her energy and her vibe. It's like you're gonna enter a festival with her. So
It is. That is my favorite thing about Krishna consciousness. Yeah.
okay. So Surabhi, let's start from the top, and it is tell us about your journey into Bhakti.
So, thank you so much for having me on this. I'm super nervous, by the way, because I was thinking about this question. I knew you'd ask it. So I'm very, very fortunate that I've actually had devotees in my life all around me since I was born. My aunt and uncle are devotees. My cousins are devotees. So I think just that agyata sukriti of having them just give us mercy constantly, and me not knowing what this mercy is, that definitely helped. Um, I will say that, like, I didn't know what the Hare Krishna was, even though we had family members. I thought they were just another Hindu group, as there are so many groups in South Africa. So I just thought, I kind of lumped them all together, thinking this is a group thing. And I thought, like, you have to be vegetarian. That's like the only thing I knew about devotees or even all these Hindu groups. And I wasn't vegetarian. So that was like my understanding of this movement. But personally, I was always asking questions about like deep questions about death and what's the purpose of life. From the time I was very small, like maybe 4 years old, I'd ask my mom, what's the point of living if we're just going to die, and where do we go, what happens after we die? And she was always a seeker also, so she would tell me, like, no, we go to God. And I would say, like, okay, but and then she's like, then we don't leave there, we stay there forever. And I was like, oh my God, because I pictured that world being like this world. And this world was like not attractive to me. Like, just everything here was like always very scary. So I didn't like it very much. And when she said that, I thought, oh, so I'm gonna go there and like get stuck there. Like, well, there's no way to leave that world, thinking it's like this world. And thinking, like, what if it gets boring? What do I do? I obviously had no conception of like the variety and the like everything about the spiritual world that we hear about now. So I was a bit like confused. But so throughout my life I've been asking these kinds of questions, but I didn't give too much importance to it because I was also very focused on my academic studies, like at school and stuff. So, but I always noticed, like, everything in this world was temporary, and it always caused a lot of pain. And I'd always wonder, like, why is everything temporary? Like, why does everything have to end? And why doesn't even things that we enjoy doing, like our hobbies, they don't give us happiness in a lasting way. They give us happiness for some time. So I was noticing all of this, but I just kept focusing on school. And then when I finished school, that's when I felt like, okay, I've accomplished everything I wanted to accomplish in terms of academia. Now what? Like, kind of expected. I guess I expected, because I accomplished my goals. Like, I feel a bit fulfilled, but it was like the same. It was short-lived, because I was fourth in the province when I was in matric. So I like performed really well, and that was like my goal. And then so I was like famous for like kind of famous for some time, because people were constantly phoning me and like wanting to do interviews and newspaper articles and radio interviews, and it was like a bit much. So I was like, well, I'm not enjoying any of this, but I accomplished my goals. So what is the point of it all? And at that time, my uncle, Ram Vijay Prabhu, invited us to a retreat with Bhakti Charu Swami. My brother was like also a seeker and started going to the temple and just like studying. So he was very eager. And I kind of went just to like get away from all the like people calling me and wanting to interview me and stuff. So I went for a holiday. Like, that's how I had seen this retreat. And I had gone on retreats before when I was like 12 years old. At that time, my mom was seeking. So I'd gone on retreats, and still it was like a holiday, because I was 12. I didn't take in anything. It was like a bit long, like sitting classes and stuff. So I kind of thought I'll just do the same again, even though I regret that, because I mean, there was like Kadambakandana Swami was at those previous retreats when I was 12, Indradyumna Swami, like there were so many senior devotees, but I didn't take advantage of their association. So at this retreat, it was Bhakti Charu Swami's retreat. So I went, and again, I felt like, oh, I can't pay attention, but I would go now. Like, I went to the classes, and I just remember sitting. I don't remember anything about that retreat. I don't know what the topics were, but I think it was on the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. But I didn't know at that time who is Lord Chaitanya at all. So I just remember sitting next to Sandini, my cousin, and I'm like not hearing anything, but I'm just watching her, and she's like listening intently at the class, and she's drawing this picture on a piece of paper. So I was just watching her draw, and it was so beautiful. She actually drew Lord Chaitanya, kind of similar to this picture, like, you know, the form of Lord Chaitanya with like a flowing chadar and a garland and everything. And then she drew, so she had Lord Chaitanya in the middle, and she drew this picture of Krishna at the bottom and Radharani at the top, like just their faces. And then she had like this chadar kind of like flowing from Krishna to Radharani, like that, like, you know, on Lord Chaitanya. And I was like, oh, what's that? And then she says, this is Lord Chaitanya, you know, and I got Krishna here and Radharani because, you know, Lord Chaitanya is Krishna in the mood of Radharani. And I was like, okay, I didn't really understand what that meant, but that stuck with me. Like, how can you be in the mood of someone else? You know, like it kind of blew my mind. So I was like thinking about it a lot, but not understanding it still. And then later in that retreat, met a bunch of people and devotees, and they were all congratulating me because of matric and stuff. And then had a lot of prasadam, which I have to say is like, I think, the winner in terms of making people Krishna conscious, like just eating like mountains of prasadam at that retreat. And then meeting Bhakti Charu Swami. So my grandparents went to meet him, and my brother and I just tagged along. And he was so loving and so gentle, and he like said he's very proud of me because I've done so well in school. And I remember he spoke to Nash about other things. So I think Nash was interested in Krishna consciousness. And then he asked me, like, are you interested in Krishna consciousness too? And then I said, I didn't really do anything. And then he says, I assume you must have been focused on your school. Yes. Krishna consciousness, one must take Krishna consciousness very seriously. And then that's when I was like, whoa, okay. This is, you know, it kind of stuck with me. Just those statements. And the fact that I was in like a transition phase of like school to university. So I had time to like focus on this now after school. I started focusing on like, what is my purpose? Where do I want my life to go? And then I started going to like the temple and festivals and kirtan programs and stuff. Initially, it was more social, like having friends or just being like part of the whole vibe of things, and it was exciting. And then I'd say only when I really took shelter of my spiritual master that I decided, okay, I'm going to take this seriously now. Like, I think I had it in my mind, like, I'll take it seriously in the future at some time. But, and then I was just listening to some lectures by Krambakananda Swami and then decided, like, okay, you know what, I think it just started resonating more and more with me. And then I was like, okay, I think I want to take it seriously now. So that's my journey. It's a bit strange because it's like you have this gift from the time you're born, basically, like very accessible to you, but you don't really open it until later. So it's a bit, yeah, that was my journey.
It's interesting you say that because as you were telling your story, I was thinking, oh, she was practicing spirituality and devotion without even really knowing it. You know, attending a retreat is devotion. Eating Krishna Prasad is devotion. So there's a lot of unknowing, and I think that you were practicing devotional principles without realizing it. So it's almost
that's
like you're falling in love and you're not realizing it.
Yeah, but it's almost like falling in love with different things and then them coming together to being the one thing. Because like all the deep questions I had, like I didn't necessarily know this part would be the answer to those questions. Like I just started doing these things, associating, and then when I was reading the books, I realized, oh my word, this is also answering all my questions that I've always had about life. Mm-hmm. So it does everything all at once, but I like kind of focused on different aspects or just came in touch with different aspects. I mean, the books is what really grips you. You know, that's going to keep you long term.
So Rabi, you've brought it up, so I obviously have to ask. So obviously you've done quite a bit of reading since then. And do you have a favorite book? Is it something that you keep revisiting?
Oh my God. I mean, how can you pick a favorite, right? It's like a mother picking their favorite child. But Srimad Bhagavatam is just, it's everything to me. Srimad Bhagavatam is everything. Just and that's something we all revisit every day in some way, whether it's a verse, whether we see something. We revisit Srimad Bhagavatam every day. But it's my life because I remember when I started reading Srimad Bhagavatam, from the first verse, I could feel that this is completely pure. Like, these weren't words. It was a journey, you know, from the first verse. And I was like, oh my word, I can't believe that this feeling in my heart, and I don't know what it is, just from reading the first verse. And the first 3 verses have really long purports. And I'm not a reader. Like, I was never a reader. From up until joining Krsna Consciousness, the only books I read were Harry Potter and a few Dan Brown books like Angels and Demons and The Da Vinci Code. I did not read any other books, and I did not like reading. And it was really like Bhagavad Gita took me a whole year to read because it was like I was slow at reading. But Srimad Bhagavatam, I could not. That was like unputdownable. And like I couldn't stop reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Wow. And it was long, and I was just relishing. You feel like you're really contacting Krishna when you read Srimad Bhagavatam. And it is a journey.
I just want to interject there about your comment about how when you read Srimad Bhagavatam and you felt it wasn't regular words and regular sound. In my Bhagavatam book club, we just finished Canto 2 and Chapter 4. And in the last few verses in the purport there, Srila Prabhupada says how this sound is not mundane sound. It's a different type of sound altogether. And there's so much of truth and weight in it. And it's so refreshing to hear somebody say it without necessarily reading that purport and keeping that purport in mind. But, you know, just because I had just gone through it and hearing you say it, I'm like, oh, this is like so heartwarming, so really it's lovely to hear that.
I think with all the books, we know theoretically this is not normal sound vibration. This is transcendental. But when I start, and it's true for all of Prabhupada's books, it's true for all of the scriptures. But when I started reading Srimad Bhagavatam, it felt like that light bulb, came on. Like this is not just like a theoretical notion. It's actually, I can feel like this is pure. So yeah, Srimad Bhagavatam, and it was such a journey. It is a journey. It's not just like you reading a book. It's a whole journey of just going through all the cantos and like Srila Prabhupada says, learning about Krishna. Well, first learning about this material world, firstly, because how can you transcend it if you don't know the different movings of it? We can't just jump to Krishna's pastimes and think we're going to spontaneously be attracted if we don't understand the material world first and understand how it traps us and how to actually transcend it. And then getting into Krishna's pastime.
Can I interject here? I have a question for you.
Okay.
And it might be a little bit of a loaded one, but I must ask it because we are discussing Srimad Bhagavatam. How do you feel the Srimad Bhagavatam handles women?
Ooh, I feel like a lot of strong statements are made about women in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And I feel like when I read them at first, I could understand why women would take offense to those statements. But I could also feel, because the journey of reading it also kind of takes you out of this body. I'm not saying I'm out of the body, but I'm saying it like purifies your consciousness to understand, okay, we're not actually women. We're Vaishnavis, we're devotees. We are in this woman body. And maybe women who are not using their time to develop Krishna consciousness could potentially have these weaknesses which are being described. Of course, it's described like flat out for everybody.
That's true for everybody, whether you're a man or a woman. So
exactly.
That's true.
Exactly. It's not. It's kind of like you can't just make a blanket statement like all women are like this, everyone's like this. But I could see how these statements could be true when we're not practicing Krishna consciousness. And it's also true for men who are not practicing Krishna consciousness, really. So I didn't take too much offense to it in the sense of like letting it, I didn't get stuck on it. Like, obviously it's not pleasant. Like, Nash and I always, whenever there's heavy things in the Shastra, we kind of look at it like, ooh, and then we kind of like giggle a little, but we try not to let that like really get deep into our heart and make us get stuck on it, or this statement or that statement. Because I mean, there's so many things that you also just read and you just carry on reading, like even if you don't understand it, like fifth canto. So that was my mood towards those statements.
I also think that it's important that we don't look at things in isolation as well. I was again in my book club, we were talking. Prabhupada was talking about deity worship in about 2 or 3 verses. And if you just read those 2 or 3 verses and its purport, you would think that the dharma of our lives in this lifetime is to worship the deity. So I also think perspective is very important, and looking at a broader vision. You look at the entire landscape, not just zoning in on specific things, because then, it can be very confusing when you're reading. I'm glad to
if
hear
you
that you're reading with somebody.
statements,
Are you reading alone, or you read it with people, or you read on your own and discuss with people? How do you do it?
I mean, I did read it completely alone the first time, but I generally do discuss things. I don't have like a group where we all read together, but we do. I'm always kind of discussing Srimad Bhagavatam with somebody. Like, at home, we have a lot of conversations just with my mom and brother. Just like as my family, we always discuss things. It's not structured like, let's discuss Srimad Bhagavatam now. It's just things come up,
It's your lifestyle.
So
it's your lifestyle. That's awesome. That's
things
really
just
awesome.
come up.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say about that point you made about not looking at things in isolation. Yeah, like that's also, I wouldn't say I avoided those, just kind of like ignored them. I say like I took them into consideration, but if you read the rest of Srimad Bhagavatam, those statements are few, and I feel like the nectar of Srimad Bhagavatam inundates you so much that anything related to the body kind of loses its importance. It's still there. We still all feel it. We're still governed by our material bodies in many ways and the maintaining it. But I just felt like there's so much more to Srimad Bhagavatam than these statements. And if you look at Srila Prabhupada and how he treated women and his female disciples, like that says more to me than some statements that he's making in, as in a preaching mood, trying to set standards and trying to make us also understand about the external energy and women who are governed by the external energy, or men who are governed by the external energy. Prabhupada makes heavy statements about everyone, but it's actually out of compassion. He doesn't dislike anyone. It was all very compassionate. Like, it's basically like, don't be governed by this energy, be governed by Krishna's energy. So he says a lot of things very emphatically. That's because of how much love he has. Like he just wants us to come to Krishna. So that's how I've taken it.
Yeah, it's really mature of you. I know lots of people zone in on certain things and use it as a platform to cultivate like not real devotion. It sort of distracts them into either bringing women down, or women who read it become angry about it and get fixated on it. So I like your attitude of taking it in stride, and I think it's really valuable. I want to ask you, we are the Women's Collective and we are doing How I Met My Sisters. So I want to ask you about the women that have influenced your devotional career. How has that been? Even you can talk about your struggles if you've had any, how you navigated through that, and just how women have shaped you devotionally, or if they've shaped you devotionally. I think your mom's had a lot to do with a lot, just from the little that you've been saying.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, my mom is like my biggest hero.
Mm-hmm. Sorry?
Yeah, my mom is my biggest hero. Like, just her mood, her personality before she was even a devotee. She has so many natural Vaishnava qualities that I could only dream of having. That's my goal, to become like her. It's quite funny because I'm so far away from that, but she's just so loving and forgiving, and she doesn't hold negative feelings towards anyone. Like, it's just something she doesn't do. And I've seen it because she always tells me, like, I don't want to keep this in my heart. I don't want to have this towards any person. And she loves very, very much, very hard. So with the people she loves, she will do absolutely anything for them. And like, she in that sense, she's not like detached, she like, if she loves and cares about so many people. So she's always, always, always doing so much to show them love and to help them in some way. And it really hurts her if people's lives are kind of, getting negatively affected. She'll always try, like, what can we do? She'll want to do something, even if right now she has no power to do something. It's that desire and her intention. And then obviously joining Krsna Consciousness, she's my biggest help, because she was the one who was, her journey of seeking is what influenced me, because she was learning so much, meeting Kadamba Swami, her spiritual master, questioning him for like 10 years, listening to all his lectures, doing service, transcribing his lectures. And that's how I listened to his lectures and got attracted to, and could understand, we're on the same wavelength, in the sense of like, it resonated with me, what he was saying, his mood and everything. So all of that, and just introducing me to him, introducing me to my spiritual master, that all came from her. And all like service opportunities came from her. So she's like everything to me. My cousins, my
and the
aunt,
other
my
women,
uncle. Pardon?
and the other women that
Um,
have influenced.
yeah, yeah. So I was gonna say, Haripriya, Sandini, Shama Premi, being my family members who are devotees from the time I was small, like growing up, seeing them, even if I didn't understand it, like that was obviously a huge influence. And definitely Haripriya's cooking, right? Definitely Prashadam. Um, and so that's in terms of family, so much influence from women in my family. Obviously my uncle too, but you asked about women. And uh, in terms of like senior devotees, I really admire Mother Nirakula, Vaisheshika Prabhu's wife. She's just phenomenal. She's just this phenomenal devotee, full of love and care and compassion and selfless, completely selfless, like giving her whole life, taking nothing for herself and just giving her whole life. That really inspires me. I always wanted to be someone like her because she's very gentle and she's very welcoming. And something I really liked about her was when I was in the UK with one of my friends, and my friend was a disciple of Vaisheshika Prabhu. So I just like wanted to follow him around everywhere, and my friend also, we were like following him around everywhere. And Mother Nirakula could see us, but we was keeping a distance because we didn't want to be like in their face. But she was like, "Oh, come." And we were like wondering, whoa, we're trying to stalk and be like, subtle about it. But she's like telling us to go, right, be with them. And then she said, just grab the mercy, grab the mercy. And I just love that mood that she's always bringing people closer, She didn't think like, why are we stalking them? She was so
Yeah.
warm in that sense. And Mother Radhanath, oh my God. I mean, I think we know the glories of Mother Radhanath. From the last life, we know just her mood, love, care, compassion, feeding everybody, taking them as her children, Um, she's just amazing. And I mean, there's so many, right? Then there's all the Vaishnavis around me, Yadurani, Thalia, Priya Kishori, Rukmini, Girisha, Marsha, Charikanda Sevaki. There's just so many devotees that are
That's
like that
wonderful.
inspire me in my
Yeah.
circle. Yeah, that is like friendship, in terms of friends and having a circle around you. There's so many Vaishnavis. All of their moods, something I learned from. And I like associating with devotees who are who have qualities that I want to imbibe, because I think by that association I can imbibe it in all of them. Something that I noticed in all of my friends is that they speak very sweetly and they're very um, kind and considerate, and that's something I'm trying to work on. Is Tirumala. I knew I was forgetting someone. I just see a message. Tirumala also, just her sweet voice. Satyarani. I learned so much from these devotees.
Mm,
So
mm.
yeah, there's a huge list of that. Um,
Yeah, I'm sure that you. So I just want to give a disclaimer for Surabhi. I'm sure there are other devotees that she hasn't mentioned, but she carries in her heart, and it
yeah,
is difficult to remember everybody, in a
yeah.
situation like this. So, Surabhi, I'm going to ask you about. Um, I don't know if you have it, but do you have a favorite service?
Oh, that's hard. I have to say book distribution because I think that's like my main calling. I wouldn't say I enjoy it. It's not easy for me because I'm actually an introvert, which is what people don't know, because I energize by being alone. Like I need a lot of alone time. But I think book distribution is that service that makes me actually take the sacrifice of going outside my comfort zone to do something. Like I would happily do that service, even though it's against my nature to talk to strangers on the street and stop them and try to sell them something. It's really because I know like I don't like being stopped by people on the street. for any reason. Like, I'm always scared, I don't know what's going to happen. So are they trying to trick me? So I'm always very wary of that. So I also put myself in their position and try to be not agitating and be like kind of subtle and not like forceful. But yeah, that's I would say it's my favorite service because it's a difficult one, but I would choose to do it, even though it's difficult.
You're not saying why it's your favorite though.
Oh, it's my favorite because, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, anyone who shares this message is most dear. Something along those lines. There's no one more dear to me than he, basically. And obviously, Vaisheshika Prabhu inspires that a lot. I was inspired by Vaisheshika Prabhu when he came in 2016 and did a seminar on book distribution at our temple. And since then, I was like, oh, I have to do this. I just have to do this because he showed us how much how much in line it is with Srila Prabhupada's desire. And also I read his book, Our Family Business. That's another thing. If I had to choose a favorite that's like not Srimad Bhagavatam, I'd say Our Family Business.
Wow, really?
Yeah, because it's not just about book distribution, like what I thought. I'm going to read a book about book distribution. It was actually very little about book distribution. Most of it was just nectar, like nectar stories from the old days, all kinds of verses from, the writings of the Goswamis, and verses from Srimad Bhagavatam, which actually made me desire to read Srimad Bhagavatam. Because before that, I said, this book is too long. I'm like not going to make it. I already decided. Like, I thought scripture is for like priests to read. Like, why would I try to read scriptures? I was like, no. But when I read Our Family Business, and I saw all these beautiful verses from Srimad Bhagavatam and, Rupa Goswami's Padyavali and so many different scriptures. And those verses were not related to book distribution. They were just things that Vaisheshika Prabhu was talking about in the process of explaining about book distribution, but he was taking points from them and how he practically applied them in different situations and how, we know from this teaching this, So that's how I got attracted to Srimad Bhagavatam and to book distribution from that one book. So it gave me two of my favorite things.
Awesome. So Ravi,
Yeah.
I just want to read some of the comments that have been coming through to you. So Leela Shukar says she loved the point about how you can transcend the material world if you don't know about it. That was when you were talking about Srimad Bhagavatam and yeah. And then Tirumala says it was such a pleasure to listen to this today. Suravi is such a wonderful devotee. She is so Krishna conscious and she is a wonderful friend. She is truly inspiring. And then Yogeshwari is commenting on our conversation at the moment. And she says there's a big gap in our generation for book distribution service. Thank you. Admire you for that. So it's true. And Surabi, why do you think people of your generation don't look? I was a book distributor. I was a full-time book distributor, and actually I used to distribute books, for a really long time. And even when we were having our monthly Sankirtan festivals,
Yeah.
I would do it. So why is it that you think that younger people are struggling to get into book distribution?
I don't know. I think it is because it's like a bit nerve-wracking, Like Vaisheshika Prabhu says, the goal is to touch the pavement. That's it. As in, your only goal is to just show up. He doesn't want you to distribute books. You just show up and see what happens. So when you touch the pavement, you've already accomplished your goal. You can feel satisfied. I think what makes us not want to go is because we feel this pressure that we have to perform, we have to distribute books, we have to do well, it's going to be measured, it's going to be counted, and that kind of like maybe it puts pressure on our minds a bit. And then the added thought of like, I'm going to talk to strangers, it's scary, what will people think, what will people say? All of these things are also there. And I know I do feel those things. It's not like I don't feel them because I do it. I feel them every day before I go out on books, So those things are definitely all there. I think Vaisheshika Prabhu's rule about just having the goal of touching the pavement, that would be just for everyone to know. That would be really helpful. And then also go with people that you like going with, like friends, so that you see it more like it's also a social thing. You're with your friends, you're distributing, so you feel a bit comfortable. You're not like out there alone on the street, which is very scary. So I think it might just be out of fear that people don't go. And also maybe if we're not reading the books as much, then we wouldn't go. Because if we're reading the books, then we'd be very, very inspired to go out, because the books, all the books basically point to sharing the knowledge. That's the mission of Prabhupada's movement. Vaisheshika Prabhu says, we've got two things: chant Hare Krishna and teach others. That's our two things that we do in this movement. So we get used to chanting Hare Krishna for ourselves. And then when we inspired, like, how great is this chanting Hare Krishna? How great is this movement? How great are these books? How great is this prasadam? How great is this festival? I have to share it with others. I have to share this. So when that comes in, then we'll distribute books. Of course, it's not that we have to distribute books. We can share Krishna consciousness in so many other ways if we are like completely uncomfortable with distributing books. And also even contributing to the book distribution by cooking for the book distributors, performing deity worship so that others can go out on books. These are all part of book distribution. So that's a way everyone can get involved. Like with MSF, everyone was doing books that day, even the pujari, because they were, staying at the temple. The cooks were doing very great book distribution because they were feeding us. And we remember our MSF feasts, right? Oh, yeah. We remember those feasts. They were the best.
When will those days be back?
I know. I think, yeah.
I used to cheat, I used to just go outside Govinda's and set up my book table, and it was awesome.
It was amazing.
Because I'm a lazy book distributor. So we have a few comments that I'd just like to read out to you quickly. So Vaishnavi Charan, she says, really inspiring, Vaishnavi. Then there's another Rasastali here. I think this is Bhakti Charaswami's Rasastali, if I'm not mistaken. For myself, I feel the less we read and have full conviction in Prabhupada's books, we will just go out and distribute with joy, fear. I can't fully grasp what she's saying. So Radhe Rasastali, if you can please just clarify for us exactly, we'd love to hear exactly what you're trying to express there. So Talia is saying, Surabhi is the first devotee who distributed books to me.
Yeah.
It is her causeless mercy that I'm trying to practice Bhakti Yoga today. And Rasastali, you were second. I gave you okay. Thank you. Then Melissa is saying, she's asking for experience, so we'll come back to that. And then Talia says, thank you, sweethearts, for your unconditional love and mercy. I'm so grateful for your friendship. So Melissa has a question for you, Surabhi. She's saying, what was your first book distribution experience?
First book, okay. So before that, I just have to comment on Talia. She's keeping me in Krishna consciousness most of the time, but she keeps saying that because I gave her her first book, she's so grateful. She's so sweet. So first books were on Janava Dasi's with Rukmini in 2013. It was for the marathon, and I don't even remember how I got involved with that. It just happened. And I remember we went door to door in, I think it was Chatsworth. And I remember Priya Charan was there. And there were a few other girls. And I think I went out with this mood of having no expectation of doing anything, because I was I don't know, I don't even know why I was there. I don't know what made me go, but I just went. And
just sorry, Surabhi, and just for clarity, you hadn't read Our Family Business by then, at that
No,
time. It was before
no.
Our Family Business.
It was before, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our Family Business was in 2016. So in 2013, I just kind of went, I don't know whether like some of my friends told me to go, or if I spoke to Rukmini, I don't even know if I knew Rukmini well enough that time, but I went with Rukmini, Priyacharan, I think Malini was there, Yelisha might have been there. There were a few girls, part of Janavadasis. And so I just went and I didn't expect anything. And then I think I knocked on someone's door and I was scared because in general, like just talking to people is scary for me. So I knocked on someone's door and this person opens the door and then it's this like elderly man and he says, come inside. And it was me and one other girl. And I'm like, I don't know what to do now because I'm not just going to go into someone's house. But then the other girl was there. So I felt like, okay. And then we go in and we see he's got pictures of Krishna and, like big pictures of Krishna, and he's telling us some things, and he offered us some water or if we wanted something to drink or anything, and I was like, no, I'm okay. And then we showed him the book, and he bought one of the books that I showed him, and I was like, oh my God, I did something. So then when we left that house, I think we spoke to him for a little bit, and then we left that house, and then I went back with this beaming smile to Priya Charan, and so she always remembers that. And then I think I told Rukmini like, yeah, I did something. So that was the first one. It was very exciting. And then after that I kept going for that marathon in December to wherever they were going, because it was my school holiday, university holiday. So we went to like a few shopping malls, and we were undercover in a lot of places. So it was really exciting.
I can imagine. Well, we now, well, with COVID we haven't, but nowadays we book places in the malls.
Yeah.
No. Bookstores. And
now we're not undercover.
Yeah. So, okay, so Radha Rasastali is clarifying her point. She says, apologies, we will have no fear and be joyful and just go out to distribute Prabhupada's books with full conviction if we ourselves are reading the books. And this is the generation gap of book distribution.
Okay. Yeah, this is the generation gap. Oh, okay. Yeah.
I think she's saying, well, look, I'm from the older generation of book distributors, so I can say that also the emphasis on book distribution was a lot more stronger back in the day. We didn't have certain challenges like social media and the option of reading online. If you wanted to read Science of Self-Realization, you would have to buy a hard copy. So I think there's a few factors that have shifted book distribution. Although, I know young people who love to read and they must read an actual book. But then, Kindle people will swear by Kindle because they carry the entire Bhagavatam in a little notes book. So
it's true. Like I know the emphasis was a lot more back then, and even now I'm happy to do it for me, and I'm happy when people go on books. But I wouldn't particularly notice if people don't go on books, because I see so much other preaching is happening that does not involve going out and selling a book. So much, and that preaching is immeasurable. It's just immeasurable. Like the amount of sharing Krishna consciousness that is happening right now is like we can't contain it. We can't measure it. So all the social media that's happening, the videos, the little reels, the posts, all of this that's preaching. That is also book distribution in a way, because you're recommending. Some people just recommend books to their family, talk about what they are reading, and people want to read it. So I don't feel like everybody absolutely has to go out, and I don't think that I think there's other ways also. My spiritual master says there are innumerable ways to preach, and we have only touched the surface of all these ways.
So you thank you for that, Surabhi, and it's true. And I think also times have changed, and what appeals to people also has evolved. And, we need to be able to evolve with that. So Yogi is
Mm.
saying, I tend to disagree with that point. A lot of the younger generation are loving to read Srila Prabhupada's books. Yes, Yogi, you are right. The younger, in my book club, most of the people are young. I'm like one of the oldies there. So I think she's right. Younger people are loving to read Prabhupada's books, but not doing book distribution, which may be true. Because maybe I think that book distribution is really hard. It's not easy to do it. Even if you're an extrovert, even if you love talking to people, it's a hard thing to just walk up to a complete stranger and, talk to them. So Radha Rasa is saying, it's really inspiring to see youth like you carry on the legacy of book distribution. It was so important to Srila Prabhupada, but not all of us are brave enough to do physical book distribution. Yeah. And that's the thing, the bravery that's required for it. But also, I think, Surabhi, you said something really nice. You said we just need to go out and touch the pavement and do it in groups and, do that. If you can, do a small monthly Sankirtan festival for the experience, because what I can say is book distribution is a absolutely unique devotional experience.
It is.
And I think for that reason, every practitioner of Bhakti should try it at least once, just to experience that unique thing. It really, really is something. So Melissa's saying most people preach in the form of their behavior. Well, that is, that's what Acharya is, one who teaches by example. So Srila Prabhupada was very much in aligning one's behavior to one's practice. What do you have to say, Surabhi, about that?
Yeah, that's the main thing, actually. That's more important than book distribution. I think that's more important than everything, because Prabhupada wanted us to take these teachings and make them our own, not just to instruct someone else. I feel like when we try to instruct someone else on these teachings without ourselves practicing it, it's a bit hollow. It's like a container, but it's like when you knock on it, it's a bit hollow, even though the teachings are perfect and pure themselves. And we're not going to wait until we're perfect before we share the knowledge, obviously. We do those two things side by side. While we're absorbing, we share the knowledge. But it's very important that it actually comes into our hearts. And that's, I know St. Francis of Assisi said, I think it was, we should be preaching all the time, and when necessary, we should speak. So, as in, most of our preaching can be done without even speaking, based on our behavior. It was something along those lines.
People don't like to be preached to.
Yeah.
People don't like it. We don't like to be preached to. So, I think that that point about just live who you live by your principles, and that will be the example. And whenever people talk about Srila Prabhupada, they talk about his unconditional acceptance and love, which is, in essence, the true Bhakti principle.
Yes, he practiced it perfectly. Yeah. I also just wanted to comment on the point, like, I'm not into like absolutes, I can't say that this is the way to distribute books. If we're not doing this, then we won't distribute books. Or if we're doing this, then we want to distribute books. It's that everyone right now, every single person is doing some kind of sharing Krishna consciousness in their own way. However they're doing it. So it's not so much about like, even I don't think it's even necessary for everybody to feel like they need to be brave enough to go out on books. It's okay, if people don't do books, don't do book distribution, because there's so many, like Radha Rasa said the thing about, not being brave enough to go on books. But I mean, she's teaching children. That's like for me, that's the ultimate preaching in a way. It's like, however she's doing it, subtle, however, and she has taught so many children. So that's sharing Krishna consciousness. whatever we do somehow is sharing. So yeah.
Yeah, Surabhi, I'm not surprised that you and I came to a point where we're talking about sharing Krishna consciousness because, over the years I've observed you, and you're the type of person that when whatever you're doing, you want to share it. And I think, as I said, for you, you experience devotion as a festival. And therefore, you're always trying to get everybody, join the festival sort of thing. Leela Shuka's got a point. She's made a comment. She says, excellent point. People don't join ISKCON, they join you. By your example, by how happy and enlivened you are by the spiritual practice. This conversation is soul nourishing. Thank you. Yeah, so Melissa says everyone has a place to serve in Prabhupada's house.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's really beautiful. So Surabhi, I want to ask you about what do you think, how do you think we can build our Vaishnavi community here in South Africa?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. I don't know. I honestly don't have a clue. Like, I mean, I think we know at this point, so many people have shared different tips, different ingredients for what makes a successful community of any kind. Building trust, love, acceptance, just accepting each other for who we are, truthfulness, being truthful about who you are, so that, and so all of these things are there. But I know that it takes a lot of spiritual advancement, really, because in order to have all these qualities, to be tolerant, to be forgiving, to live with integrity, to be truthful, to be accepting, it requires that we all really go deep into our Krishna conscious practice to develop all of these qualities, and then we can be successful in a community. If we ourselves don't have those qualities, then we're not going to be able to, if all of us don't have those qualities, then we're not going to be able to work successfully in any kind of community, whether it's Vaishnavi or just any kind of community, even at a work environment. We can only give what we have within. So the main thing for me is just to always develop that on my own, because I'm all about like focusing internally on me, because I think when there's so many things we can try and fix in everything, in our movement, in our work environment, in all of our relationships with various people. There's a lot of fixing to be done, but it starts with ourselves. So, and I think the way to do it, though, is this process of Krishna consciousness. I think the process has everything. And if we really unearth everything the process has, then it's sufficient to have a successful community. But that's a lot. That's a lot that this process can give. So yeah, just to have that, to be centered around the process, the philosophy, the Shastra, and then having these loving relationships. These loving relationships will grow from that, and also having the mood to handle these loving relationships.
Absolutely. That's I like that introspective answer, Surabhi. We need to be what we want to receive, basically.
Yes,
so,
definitely.
I love that.
For me, I think the main thing is, well, for me, a quality that stands out is authenticity and truthfulness, because I think from there everything comes. When we are ourselves and we are who we really are, we don't have to like pretend to be anyone else, then we will be accepted. There's always this fear that if we're not who we are, we won't be accepted. If we're not what other people want us to be, then we won't be accepted. Or if we are ourselves, like there's this fear like, oh no, they won't accept me for who I am. But we can't actually wait for people to accept us in order to be authentic, because authenticity is our action and acceptance is their action. If they accept us or not, that's their decision, right? But for us, we have to be authentic. That is absolutely required. In everything, in our spiritual process especially. So and our authenticity shouldn't be dependent on whether people accept us. We cannot give them the key to our happiness in that way. So yeah, that's what I think about authenticity and acceptance, and like the link between them. And I think that generally when people are authentic, they find that they're accepted, you know. It's usually the fear of acceptance that makes us not be authentic, but we will be accepted. So yeah.
Wow, that's really powerful. I'm writing notes as you say those. I want to remember that. I want to be able to go back to it and reflect on it. So, Surabhi, we've been at it for almost an hour. Can you believe it? It went fast, huh?
Good. Yeah.
I just want to say thank you so much for your time and sharing your heart. I really appreciate it. You can see from the conversation and the comments, everybody that joined us today have been feeling really inspired. Okay, so Radharasa is saying, yes, that was just stunning, Surabhi. Yeah, it really was. So before we close off today and we get our last words from Surabhi, I just want to invite everybody that's here to please come forward and come and talk to us, share with us. As you've heard Surabhi herself say, she was very nervous about it, but I think she did pretty well, everyone. So don't worry about the nerve. I know we are talking to Surabhi and we're focusing on Surabhi, but actually we're focusing on ourselves, because talking to her is also talking to ourselves. It's helping ourselves. So I invite everybody that's listening in, and if you haven't been interviewed, to please message me. We would love to talk to you, and please think about it and let's make it happen. Let's get to know each other a little bit more. So that's the one shout out that I wanted to do before we draw it to a close. And Surabhi, I invite you to please share your concluding words or closing words that you have.
Yeah. So my concluding words are, I mean, to women specifically, like women are so powerful. We are so, so, so powerful. You know, I was thinking in my mind, like the energy that women have, it can be like a Brahmastra sometimes, you know, like it's really powerful, really strong energy. And we have to know when to use it and when to withdraw it, you know. That's the main thing about women. And yeah, and I think our philosophy, our process helps us to use that energy in the correct way to serve Krishna and to serve the Vaishnavas and to be exactly who we are meant to be and be exactly who we are. And yeah, I think and I think everyone, I mean, not just saying women, but everyone is powerful. Everyone has something to contribute. Everyone has something to offer. And let us just use it correctly. Use it for Krishna. And let us allow Krishna to direct our lives. Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. So that should be our compass in life that's directing everything that we do.
Oh, wow. Sure. Thank you so much. So Hiranmayi is saying this was really nice and inspiring. Thanks for sharing, Surabhi. Yogi is saying, thank you, Surabhi, really inspiring. So there's lots of gratitude, Surabhi. Thank you so much for your time. I really loved having this conversation with you, and thank you so much for agreeing to do it, even though you were very nervous.
Thank you so much for having me. I just want to say, all these women who are commenting, they're all inspirations. You know, I wish I mentioned everyone, Radharasa, Hiranmayi, Yogeshwari, everybody. They're just inspiring women.
Yeah, well, and you know, the thing is that the more we talk to them, we'll get to know how inspiring they are. So,
yes.
Sharon saying absolutely beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Tirumala saying thank you. This still was wonderful. Radha Rasastali saying agreed with these talks are for myself, and the messages are always come out from every single Vaishnavi that comes on gives such valuable messages for myself to grow. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Radha Rasastali. I appreciate that. So we will see everyone next week, same time, same place. And we're going to be talking to Vaishnavi Charan, who is Mindful Trinity, next Friday. So we'll see you then. Everybody be safe and have a wonderful week. And we'll see you.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.